Tulsa a little bit, showed me where he growed up. Now I gotta do the same thing, and I get to use words like growed up. You know what I'm saying? Without being embarrassed and stuff. It was incredible to watch. That's the first time I've seen it. Did y'all have a good time? Did y'all have You know what I'm saying? I was like, hold up, because he told me, I'm not going to lie to y'all, he told me there was a one-man show involved and that I haven't seen it. And I was bringing him to Houston. And I wanted to be like, this the homie. We going to have, it's going to be a crazy good time. You know what I'm saying? And then he was like, one-man show. I said, I don't know what to expect. I'm not going to tell nobody it's great. I'm not going to lie to you. I ain't seen it, but what I would say is that I love him.
Aww. I love you. You my everything.
Yeah, because you love people and you deal with whatever they get. That's how we do family. But I'm excited to see
He did.
It was so engaging. It was hilarious. There were lessons in it. I think everybody got a Mikey. Anybody named Mikey in here? Michael, Michelangelo. Anything? Well, good. None of y'all was uncomfortable. I was gonna be like, how uncomfortable were you? But I am excited. Another surprise of mine for me and for Jay. This is such a dope little book. You know what I'm saying? I am people's imaginary friend. I think I need to write a book about that.
You're my imaginary friend.
But I have another surprise. One of our incredible collaborators and one of the great leaders of this city who, if y'all don't know, I have an organization called Build Power. So here. And we do a lot of work around the city, around the country. And we try to connect folks with the incredible leaders who are leading Black liberation, who are leading community work and efforts to make sure that we're healthier as a community. And one of those people is sitting behind me, and she has a special message. Her name is Tasha Jackson, Councilwoman. Yep, all of Greens Point.
North side, hey! Spring, hey! Hey!
Get to the good school, I feel it. We tried it. But you have a very special message for us today. This is a pleasant surprise for me and a pleasant surprise for Jay. Where the hell Jay at? Jay, you changed yet? You feel good? You done dabbed under the pit? Do we need a little bit more time, or do we want to read it while you come out? Let's go!
We'll read it.
We'll read it as it comes out.
This long proclamation.
All right.
So, Jay Ellis, this is presented to Jay Ellis, whereas Jay Ellis, a native of Sumter, South Carolina, has captivated audience worldwide with his talent and versatility.
And, okay. Whereas, this is official shit, you know what I'm saying? Official business. So whereas Jay Ellis embarked on a nomadic childhood, attending 12 schools in 13 years. I told y'all people went to a lot of schools, you people are dressers, I was saying. Honing his adaptability and creativity as he crafted new identities for each community he called home. And
whereas Jay Ellis' academic journey led him to Concordia University in Oregon, where he not only pursued his education, but also showcased his athletic prowess on the basketball court.
Whereas following his college years, Jay Ellis set his sights on Hollywood, where he made his mark with a recurring role on BET's The Game.
Period!
career in the entertainment industry, and I'm gonna just do this because I like presenting. You know, I'm an actor. I like reading too much. Whereas Jay Ellis's multifaceted talents have shone bright in his role as Lawrence. We like to call him Larry. On HBO's Insecure, a portrayal that garnered both critical acclaim and awards, including the esteemed NAACP Image Award. Repertoire to the silver screen, appearing alongside legendary Tom Cruise and Top Gun Maverick, to a global audience. Whereas we recognize Jay Ellis's remarkable journey from a military upbringing to the dazzling lights of Hollywood, and celebrated as a testament to his resilience, talent, and dedication to his craft.
And this is for me. Therefore, I, Tarsha Jackson, council member of District B, hereby proclaim August the 6th, 2024, as Jay Ellis Day.
I'm so thirsty.
Y'all can't tell me no on my day.
Say love you,
Real quick, it's my cousin's birthday, y'all.
Happy birthday,
No, Houston. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a little conversation here. You know, we're gonna talk a little bit. Y'all cool with a little bit more conversation? Yeah. Okay, y'all more excited than I thought y'all was. I just had to check in real quick. But y'all know Tarsha doing some incredible work around here. We also, are there volunteers here from Pure Justice outside? If anybody, come on. You know, Pure Justice, you know what it is. They already in the community, so you already know what they're here to do. Yeah, register. They out there. Everybody register to vote? Okay, so if you don't know anybody, come by the end of the show, and we're going to trick them and say that they're going to meet Jay Ellis, but they really don't. So anybody who's not registered to vote, we got folks out here that know what they're talking about. and they can actually register you to vote and give you any information that you need to get other people registered to vote. Okay, is that all right? Yeah. All right, so let's dig into it, Jay. I like this setup. I feel like this should be like this, but I'm not gonna move it. I'm feel like I'm gonna screw something up. Is it okay if I curse? Is that bad? I get a little bit. It's just sometimes.
Hey, I'll wash out your dirty mouth.
Yeah.
I got you, baby.
So I love everything. I'm trying to be appropriate, y'all. I'm over here reading the activism and stuff. So yeah, I really did. I really do think I was everybody imaginary. I loved how you dug into this. I love the themes in it. I love everything about it. I did leave my phone backstage. But I read all the questions.
Okay. Somebody grab Kendrick.
I remember that.
Okay.
So the more specific one, but I do kind of want to start with your relationship with Mikey.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, I've tried to write a book.
I know.
This is not my book.
I know.
I don't know how that thing works. Oh,
It will be.
Dorsey, I appreciate you. You know, I got a little reminders. Give it up for Dorsey, part of the Bill Power team. Bill Power in the house. I didn't smoke as much weed, so I feel pretty good about this. So yeah, I mean, I still want to start it from the same place. I think, I love the idea of Mikey. I love the idea of an imaginary friend, and it's really hard to write a book.
Yeah.
That's why I ain't got one. And I've tried. I've tried. But thinking about how you were going to incorporate, how did you come up with the concept, and I would love to explore that from like a purpose, driven, like what was the exploration that led you to, I'm gonna frame it this way, I'm gonna center it on this imaginary friend, and I want people to get A, B, or C out of it. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's interesting, bro. Like I think this originally started kind of like I said. I was just looking at some pictures and just thinking about my childhood, and I moved around a lot because my dad was in the Air Force, and sometimes we were even in the same city, but I still moved around quite a bit. But I would spend most of my summers in Sacramento, California, Stockton, California, Youngstown, California. Most of them in Sacramento, but we would kind of do this like a little triangle. We would drive back and forth from Sacramento to Stockton. My aunt is here, my cousin is here. They were on this ride with me multiple times. But I started thinking about just all the places that I had lived and the people that I had met and some of the crazy things that I had done as a kid. And I started to like just write these stories. And originally, I think it was kind of, there was a certain point that I hit where I was like, oh, I want to be able to remember stories to pass those stories on. And I thought in an interesting way by like me writing these stories and what my relationship was like to a grandfather or a grandmother or a cousin or a kid at school or whatever, it would help whoever was, really I think it was about kids, but like I think it would, my kids rather, I think it would help them understand a person they never got to meet. And how much I love that person, and I hope that they have that same love for their aunt or their grandmother or their whatever. And then from there, I just started thinking about it more, and I was like, oh, I don't want to write a memoir. Like, I don't feel like I've lived enough life for a memoir. And I write that in the book. Like, I ain't lived enough life for a memoir. I'm not at that stage in my life. But I do think what I ultimately found as I was writing it was, and I don't know if you have the same experience, but like we get in it and you start working, and it's fun to be at work, certain jobs, not all of them. It's fun to be at work, but you start to lose imagination a little bit. And when play becomes work, sometimes it's hard to see, especially in a business that's so up and down and so cyclical and so like hot and cold and like we don't need you. You too light, you too dark, you know what I mean? Like, and so I think I started to like lose imagination a little bit and lose my own creativity, lose my own sense of play, and I was kind of going through the motions at times. And I thought to myself like, oh, now going through this or writing these stories, what I realized is my imagination was now running wild all over again. And so there's something inside of me that I needed to tap into. And how do I get into that and bring it into my life today? And the A, B, and C is like, I hope people walk away with A, dealing or healing your own inner child, but also really realizing that your inner child gave you what you needed when you needed it, and we are all wildly creative. We are all wildly imaginative. And like one of my favorite things is when somebody walks up to me and they go, I'm not creative. I don't have vision, I don't have imagination. I'm like, I'm sorry, did you make your dolls talk? Because that wasn't real. It's very simple. That was not real. Like, it's very easy. Did you you read a book and act like you were teaching your dolls class? That is it. Or your G.I. Joes or whatever. Like, that is, you had it. We all have it. And it gets kind of beaten out of us as we go through life. And so what I want people to take away from it is like, how do you get back to that? And I don't think as an adult you have an imaginary friend, unless it's Kendrick. But I think that means today, like, how do you find something 30 minutes a week? If you're lucky enough to do it 3 times a week, if you're lucky enough to do it every single day, how do you find something that brings you unfettered joy and it is not tied to a device? 30 minutes. What's the thing that puts a smile on your face, it heals you, it fills your cup, and you can go out and then brave all the other hard shit out in the world because you got your cup full. And I think we miss that and how important it is, how healthy it is for ourselves, for the people around us, for our communities. And so that's really my kind of how this came to be and my why.
Yeah, I mean, some people would think it's weird having an imaginary friend. Some people, I used to be so, I still am. I talk slow, but I'm from. But even people would be like, so a lot of people think this is what it is. Oh, you can make that word last forever. But people don't realize that there's a battle between country and city in Houston. They think everything Houston is country. But my family's here.
Right.
They're proof. There's a difference. Super country. Okay? And so I was slow for Houston.
Right.
And I felt like a misfit. And I would think something like Mikey or some of these things would make you feel a misfit. But more than anything, what we're trying to do at Build Power is teach everybody that thing that makes them a misfit is usually the thing that's their superpower, right? Yeah. And I'm looking at imagination as part of that. That is one of the superpowers that we're constantly diminished, like, and especially Black folks. You know what I'm saying? It's like from our spirituality to how we imagine ourselves, where we imagine ourselves, how we imagine our communities being healthy. A lot of the radical leaders, the most radical leaders, militant folks in the world, Tarsha ain't militant, but she'll be like, I ain't no creative. They lie. Right. All of these leaders lie. Because in order to see liberation and see a healthier community, she's not a real politician. She ain't lying like other politicians. But she lying about being a creative, because it's real. Like, in order to see a world that is not here, you have to imagine it. So I'm looking at, and somebody, you know, a lot of activists have said, somebody imagined shackles on wrists. Right. Somebody is imagining the next phase of our oppression.
Ooh.
Right now. So why aren't we? I like you.
I love you. I love you. Can I come home with you? Come on.
I'm sorry.
Hey.
I got the roles. I learned from other people's mistakes. But like for real, what is that superpower? What do you feel like? How do you feel people? This book can spark people's imagination, spark people's. What can they understand from your story, your relationship with Mikey, that can unlock their superpower? How does that work right now in the time we're in? Like, what do you see? I see so many parallels to. You know, this might seem in some people's head like a non-political book, and it's not. Right. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, there's so much politics that tied into our identities, into our lives, and to our misfit, you know, identity and qualities. So what do you feel like in this book applies to right now that could be transformative? Because I do believe there's a lot.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So I really do believe, like, going through the process, and again, like coming to the end of the book, my publisher, I remember when I was writing, or my editor, excuse me, she was like, do you know what the end is yet? And I was like, no, I have no idea. She's like, it's okay. Usually most people don't find it until they get like 80, 85% done. And that was my case. I didn't find it until the end, and then I went back and I read a bunch of these stories. And what I started to really see is that, like, as I was reading these stories, and I'm talking to friends of mine and family, and just people I'm coming in contact with throughout my day, so much of our language is built around what other people believe we should have. So much of our language is built around what other people think we couldn't do, or we won't try because, or we don't believe we can do it, or whatever. And it just made me realize, like, man, there was a kid in you who literally ran around the playground, or your mama's house, or your grandma's house if she didn't pop you on the butt for sitting on the plastic couch. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm saying? Everybody has a big mom. I know what I'm talking about. Or me mom. Yeah, mom. Yeah. Mom. That's what yours. But that was in you. And it is still in you. And I know it's easy for like me to say that because I'm a performer, because I'm an actor and I get to do it all day at work. But the reality is, like, while I am wildly passionate about what I do, and I believe that, like, I will probably act until I play like somebody's grandpa who keeps dying in movies. That's too real. So I'm gonna step out. I'm gonna step out of that one. Yeah, I'm gonna step out of that one because that's too close to reality.
Get that check.
But I find myself filling my cup in other ways because my passion has become my job, and I'm so fortunate to do that, but it is still a job. It is still a profession, and it still has to be treated in a certain way. So I still have to go find myself. I have to find a way to fill my cup. And I think that we all need that, to be able to imagine a different world, a different community, a different city, a different state, a different circumstance for our individual selves or our children. We all need to be able to imagine what that could be like. What could it look like if I could go to a community college? What could it look like if I could go to a 4-year university? What could it look like if I got in a management training program? What could it look like if I moved out of town, saved a little bit of money, or spent the same and got a little bit bigger place where my kids could be outside and running around? Like what if you can't even imagine that, well then how are we supposed to get the things that we are so constantly fighting for and that our forefathers, or rather, our ancestors fought for? They imagined us being here. So we have to be able to imagine for ourselves, for our children, for our community, for our state, for our country.
Period. Yes.
What's your thing with books? I saw, looking at I'm looking at the social medias. Yeah. You have TikTok? Looking at the medias of socials, you talk about books, but medias and socials ain't about books. What's your obsession with books? I mean, as y'all know, we got problems with libraries here.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Get them things back. But what is your why do you like books so much?
My mom, when I was a kid, y'all, she would make me do book reports every summer. Exactly.
Good for mother.
I'm gonna give you this freedom. These books are real.
Period.
There was this,
She knew.
Series. It was called. I think it was called the Achievements of Black Americans series of books. And it was Booker T. Washington and MLK and George Washington Carver and Harriet Tubman. It was all our folks, right? And she would send me with a book to Sacramento or wherever I was going to be at for the summer, or if I was home, she would send me with a book and tell me that I had to come home with a book report, and she was going to grade the book report, which she wasn't qualified to be a teacher. Let's just take a moment. Let's take a moment. Thank you for what you do up there. Thank you for all our educators. Thank you. The system is not built for y'all to be successful, and we hope that it turns.
We're going to fight for it.
But what I found was I slowly started to fall in love with books. And it took a bit of time. First I was like, oh, I don't want to be the only one, and I felt like the nerd, and I felt like whatever. But then I was like, oh, well, this is kind of a moment. Again, we lived in Texas for some of this, so like, this is kind of a moment for me not to be outside, because it's hot. Like, metaphorically and for real, it's hot. So like, I get to be inside and I can read for a little bit. And then that made me fall in love with like, oh, how many ways did George Washington Carver figure out how to use a peanut? Like, I gotta be able to figure out how to do something in my life. If he can figure out a peanut, I gotta be able to do something. And it made me kind of slowly disappear into other people's lives and see the world that they lived in and what they had went through and what they achieved. And then that made me go like, oh, well, I like books because like I get to disappear in these books and I get to learn about other worlds in these books. And I think part of it is like moving around so much. I always had this mindset of like, what else is out there? And so I think that books have always been that to me in life. I talk about it in this book actually. Between every season of The Game or Insecure or between every movie I've ever done, I always take a class. I love being a student. I love education. And I think, thank you. But I think part of it is because selfishly I get to use it as an actor. But then the other part of it is like, I get to soak up something that I never otherwise would have spent time on, and I feel good about myself. I feel smart. My brain got triggered in a little bit of a different way. I now have knowledge in a different base. And to me, it's been like, I think one of the things that's helped keep me sane through and grounded through this journey that I've been on is being able to step back and be like, that is that, and it is absolutely amazing, and it is not real. Let me go over here with something that I can keep with me forever. Until I go, I can keep the knowledge that I learned with me. And that to me was super important. It's why I love learning, love reading.
I want to do a little time check. If anybody could yell out what it is. Well, time, that is accurate, the time check. How much time I got left?
Where is Shanika? Shanika here?
Right here.
No.
They have 2 questions down here and also 2 questions in the mezzanine, so I think that's a cute 12 minutes.
Great. Okay, I'm just making sure, because you know I can talk better. Five. Okay, cool. Just checking. So yeah, I mean, listen, I used to sleep with books when I was a kid. My mom would tell you it was a little weird. I didn't do stuffed animals with books. And she tortured us because she thought I was smart because of that. She put us in Excel classes in like 3rd grade. But I know Excel really well. I don't know math, but I know Excel. But you know, I think that, you know, something, I'm always going to go back to our work at Build Power, because I'm very proud of it. And our nonprofit is often talking about stories and the importance of stories. Myself personally, I'm always like, history is like patriarchal white supremacy, like white men came up with history. But stories were always integral to our culture, integral to our spirituality, integral to how we understood our relationship with the land.
Right.
And I think stories are so important, and Hollywood has made us feel like it's just entertainment. Right. They've extracted the purpose from it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's I think there's an importance to put the purpose back into stories, right?
Yes.
And to infuse that and make people understand, because a lot of people think to us that, you know, we're actors, we're performers, we're entertainment, so we shouldn't speak out about different issues, we should stay in our place. But what they don't know is who the griots are. Right? The griots, you get what I'm saying? You know what they don't know is that the griots were the pillars of our community.
Mm-hmm.
That the griots were the storytellers of West Africa that they stole from them shores, and ever since we've been trying to reclaim the health of our stories. right? Because other people have stolen our stories and the right to tell our stories.
Period.
And they tell it in unhealthy ways.
Yes.
And so, how do we bring that health back to our story? How do we honor the griots? The way that they honored the griots in West African culture, in Senegal and a lot of these places, they would bury them in the baobab tree. The baobab tree was this big, massive tree that was pretty much the size of this inside, and they're still around today. They're incredible. They have deep roots, and Senegal is a desert, so there's incredible storms that come through deserts. There ain't a whole lot of vegetation that you know besides cacti. That's the plural, that's true. And they would hold these baobab trees as sacred. They store water, they have really nutritious fruit. And they would when the griots died, they would put their bodies above ground in the baobab tree, because they said if they buried them underneath the ground, they would bury our stories.
Ooh.
And it was important for them to make sure that those stories not only were honored, but nourished to stand the test of time.
Period.
So I want to talk about how we gonna make this stand the test of time. Number one, we're gonna buy it. We're gonna buy it. I haven't yet.
Somebody get the square. Where's the square?
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'll bring it over there and get one.
Look, hey. We can share. I'll read it to you. What you doing later?
I'm gonna take Kendrick's mic away from me.
Like, for real. Like, the connections to stories like this that spark imagination, I think are transformative for the culture and important. Tell us how we can support, how we can talk about it to our families, like what's important to you that people get out of this in the way that we go about it. Because we could just post it on our stories and be like this and that, but I think, again, there's a purpose to our stories, right? And how do we infuse that purpose in the delivery and the proliferation?
Okay, big words.
Did everyone have an imaginary friend or just me? How can we do that?
I think my big thing would be, as you read, think about your own childhood, especially if you grew up in the 80s and 90s. And if you didn't, whatever you know of that time, some of the music that from that time is being reused today, by Cardi, by Megan, like so much of that music is being reused today. And so I think of your own childhood and think of, again, what brought you joy? What was simple? What was easy? What made you, with the simplest of situations, what made you happy? And how can you then go and pass that to someone else? And as you're reading each one of these stories, my guess is, for most of you, again, who grew up in the 80s and 90s, you're going to remember a musical reference or a movie reference, or you'll remember where you were when a certain thing happened, and that's going to jog a memory for you. And I would just say, sit in that for a little bit. Like, think about that. Sit in what was going on in your life at that moment. Where did you live? What were your siblings like? What was school like? And my guess is you're going to find something happy. You might find some other stuff, and you might need to deal with that. That's part of the work. It is, right? We don't talk about it. We didn't have the words for it back then, but that's part of the work. So you got to deal with that. But then also, once you deal with that, make sure you find that thing that also made you happy and bring that thing forward into your life in some way. Because I think it's super, super, super important. And then after you read all these stories in the book and you realize how much I've made an imprint on your life.
That's funny.
No, but seriously, I think to Kendrick's point, I think one of the things that I've been saying on this book tour with a lot of people is like we are, and this is kind of what got me started doing this, like we are storytellers. That's what we do. Everybody can tell you a story about their grandma, their great grandma, some okra in the garden, some fried chicken. Don't put that broom over nobody's foot because she gonna spit a loogie on it. You can't open no umbrella in a house. You know what I mean? Like every single one of us has some stories from childhood about a character in our family that we should be passing on, and we should also honor them and make sure that we acknowledge what they gave to us. I say this book to me is a love letter to the 90s. Yeah. It is a love letter to the village that raised me. And it's a love letter to all the cities that I raised hell in. And I mean that. And I'm so grateful because all of those people, whether they know it or not, all of those cities, whether they know it or not, have had an imprint on my life and got me sitting at this table right now with Kendrick. All right, we have a few questions.
We're gonna open it up to questions.
For a few questions.
Woo! Me!
You know, keep them questions.
I think we're just gonna yell questions out because we don't have a mic, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jasmine Robinson.
Hey, Jasmine.
Hi. First off, what you did was amazing.
Thank you.
I am a founder and I just became an author of a book called From a Small Seed Ignorant to Bloom. And it's all about planting the seeds in your life. And instead of you worrying about the seed once you plant it, you allow God to do the rain. And so I founded a nonprofit where I give scholarships to moms who are in college. Because I was a teen mom, but I graduated with my bachelor's in architecture.
Flex. I went to college with my mom. I was 27 years old. I went to college with my mom for 4 years. I used to sit in class with her and try to read her books. And go through and her teachers would give me the assignments and they would actually, some of her teachers would actually treat me as if I was a student in class from 7 to 11 years old.
This is why I know that what I'm doing is my purpose, because stories like yours, even being from a male perspective, not even having to experience that, yours directly as you being a teen parent. I've heard so many stories of people really just grasping that and it just being a part of their identity. And so I want to know how I can get involved with your organization and what you guys are doing to kind of I know the call to action in all of this.
You have Bill Power outside, right? Are you guys outside?
Pure Justice is outside. Some of the Bill Power, Dorsey over here, and one of us is a little under the weather, so we're gonna send her prayers. But some of the Bill Power team is here to talk to. What was your book called again?
Oh, From a Small Seed, Big Dreams Bloom, and it's available on Amazon.
Come on.
Everybody got Amazon. I know that.
We don't promote them.